Before the hum of cities, before the whisper of forests, before even the first bird traced the sky, there was a world, so different, so unshaped, that to step into it feels like walking through the dream of another planet. Imagine standing on the edge of an ocean older than imagination, the horizon hazy with mist, the air quiet except for the slow, steady breathing of the earth itself. The sun hangs low, pale and unfamiliar. Its light does not yet fall upon leaves or petals. There are no trees here, no grass to bend in the wind, no sound of animal footsteps across the land. The continents are bare, raw stone worn, smooth by tides that have been rolling in and out for billions of years, and yet something stirs beneath the waves. This is a threshold, a moment poised between two eternities. Behind us lies the deep, shadowed expanse of the Precambrian past, a time when life clung to simplicity, hidden in the safety of single cells or soft-bodied forms. Ahead is a blossoming so swift and strange it will reshape the destiny of the planet. This is the dawn of the Cambrian Explosion. You might picture it as a curtain lifting on a stage that has been empty for too long. For billions of years, the oceans have been a quiet, drifting gallery of microscopic life, each organism a faint spark in the dark. But now, the sparks are beginning to cluster, to take on form, to grow limbs, shells, and eyes. The stage is set, the light brightens, and the actors of evolution prepare to step into history. The air you would breathe here is thin, lacking the richness we take for granted. The wind carries the scent of minerals, salt, and rain on bare rock. The land is silent, save for the quiet erosion of cliffs and the trickle of streams carving their first uncertain paths. The world feels paused, holding its breath for what is about to come. Beneath the surface, however, time runs quick and restless. In the shallows, the water is warmer, stirred by the sun. Here, invisible dramas unfold, tiny creatures darting and spinning, seeking food, avoiding becoming food themselves. These are the ancestors of all the complex life to come. They do not know it, but they are about to inherit a burst of creativity unlike anything before. The Cambrian explosion was not an explosion in the way we think of sudden fire and smoke. It was a flowering, an unrolling of possibilities, as though the genetic code itself had been handed new colors to paint with. In a span of time, brief by geological standards, just a few tens of millions of years, life would diversify into almost every major body plan that still exists today. And yet, here, at the opening of this story, it is still quiet. We stand at the edge of the moment, looking forward. You can almost sense the movement, the hidden currents of change. Perhaps the ocean seems a little busier, the shapes beneath the surface a little stranger. Perhaps you hear faint clicks, pulses, and hums, the earliest communication of creatures whose descendants will one day sing, call, and speak. It is a humbling thing to realize that the land we walk on now, the air we breathe, the forests and fields we know, all of it is yet to come. Here, the continents are scattered, drifting slowly across the face of the earth. Mountains are still being born in volcanic fire, only to be worn down by rain and tide. The sky is pale, almost washed out, but holds the same sun we see today, only younger, a little dimmer, its warmth less certain. And as the waves lap against the stones, you might imagine sinking into the water, letting it cradle you. The sunlight fades as you descend, scattering into blues and greens. Around you, delicate alien forms drift, some like feathers, others like ribbons, still others like glassy shields. They are soft-bodied, translucent, and fragile, yet they move with a purpose that hints at the great arms race to come. If you could stay here for what to us would be an eternity, you would watch the world quicken. You would see the first eyes open, shapes harden into shells, bodies lengthen into segmented forms. You would witness predators and prey emerging almost together, locked in a dance of survival. But for now, we are at the beginning. The stage is set, the waters stirred, the script unwritten. The Cambrian world is patient, but not for much longer. Already, chemical whispers pass between creatures, signals of presence and intent. Already, the ecosystems begin to interlace like the first threads of an intricate tapestry. Soon, that tapestry will explode with color and pattern. But here, at the threshold, it remains a faint, elegant outline. And so we drift with the tide, watching this ancient ocean under a sky that has never known birds or clouds shaped by forests. The world waits, and in the waiting there is beauty, a beauty born of potential, of the soft heartbeat of beginnings. Imagine standing on a shore of stone and crystal sand, where each grain has been weathered for eons. The tide moves in slow breaths, as though the planet itself is inhaling and exhaling. Far beneath the surface, volcanic vents pour heat and minerals into the water, feeding invisible gardens of bacteria. They are small, but in their chemistry lies the foundation of all the living worlds to come. Drift closer to the shallows, and the water clears. Sunlight revealing strange, drifting shapes, some no larger than a speck of dust, others the size of your hand. Many move without haste, propelled by the gentle beating of cilia, the waving of delicate fronds. They are unaware of us, locked into their own struggles for survival, yet they are the architects of a future beyond their comprehension. Somewhere out in the open water, a shadow moves, larger than the rest, perhaps an early predator. But it is not yet the time of dominance. The great chase will come later, when armor and teeth have sharpened, when eyes grow sharper and bodies grow swifter. For now, this is still a quiet nursery, the cradle of new designs. In this moment, life is both fragile and unstoppable. Each new adaptation ripples outward, changing the balance of survival for countless others. The smallest shift, a harder shell, a keener sense of light, can shape the destiny of entire lineages. In the slow heartbeat of deep time, the Cambrian dawn is a quickening pulse, a signal that the age of complexity has begun to stir. And so the ocean rocks us gently, the world holding its breath before the awakening. The silence here is not empty, it is full of potential. Soon the first great wave of diversity will roll across the seas, bringing with it creatures so strange they might seem born of dreams. But here, in this stillness, you can almost feel the moment before the first note of a song, the pause before life begins to sing in earnest. Ahead, the silent world is readying itself to awaken. The first light of morning spills across the ancient seas, though there is no dawn chorus to greet it. No birds wheel in the sky, no insects hum in the air. Only the soft hiss of waves along bare stone marks the boundary between land and ocean. You feel the stillness as a living thing, a great, slow heartbeat beneath your feet. And yet, beneath the waves, the silence is not emptiness. It is the hush of a world preparing to speak. The oceans of the Cambrian are heavy with anticipation. For billions of years, life has been simple. Drifting plankton, mats of cyanobacteria, soft-bodied creatures that left almost no trace in the fossil record. But now, something has shifted. Within the tapestry of DNA, new patterns are emerging, as if an unseen artist has decided to paint with bolder strokes. The water is warmer in the shallows, sunlight threading deep between the rippling waves. In that golden light, tiny figures float and sway, creatures no larger than a grain of sand, yet intricate in their design. Some are the architects of oxygen itself, releasing the breath of the future into the atmosphere. Others are silent grazers, sweeping the seafloor for invisible meals. Imagine sinking down into that water, the world above blurring into blue and gold. Around you, ribbons of translucent life drift by, shimmering in the light. Some look like lanterns, glowing softly from within. Others spiral gracefully, each twist a delicate calculation for survival. They move without hurry, yet every flick of a cilium, every bend of a soft body, is part of an ancient race, a race that has no finish line, only change. The silence here is deceptive. It is not the absence of life, but the presence of patience. This is an awakening measured not in seconds or minutes, but in epochs. What seems still to us is, in truth, the slow unfurling of possibility. In deeper waters, shadows stir. Here, the light is dim, the colors muted to greens and grays. The creatures are stranger here, long, ribbon-like bodies that undulate through the dark, soft fronds that reach upward like grasping fingers. Many will leave no fossil behind, their bodies too fragile to be recorded in stone. But their influence will echo forward, woven into the very architecture of the living world. Currents carry whispers between species, chemical signals that announce danger, food, or the readiness to reproduce. No sound as we know it carries here, yet these exchanges are rich and constant. It is as though the ocean itself is a web of invisible messages, each one shaping the choices of those who receive it. The land above remains barren, a realm untouched by animal life. But in the water, diversity is blooming. A few small creatures have begun to harden their outer layers, forming protective shells of calcium carbonate. It is a quiet revolution, armor that will forever change the balance between predator and prey. The first eyes are opening to primitive by our standards. They are nonetheless miracles of innovation, clusters of light-sensitive cells arranged to detect movement, to distinguish the difference between shadow and sun. For the first time, some creatures can truly see the world around them, and with sight comes pursuit. With sight comes escape. The age of the passive drifter is ending. You might picture one of these early hunters, a small, segmented body gliding through the water, limbs beating like oars. It does not hunt with speed, but with purpose, following a flicker in the dim light until it is close enough to strike. Its prey is soft and unaware, a design soon to vanish in a world that rewards protection and awareness. Even here, in the quiet dawn of complex life, competition is fierce. Every adaptation sparks another in response. A harder shell prompts stronger jaws. Sharper vision demands better camouflage. This is the unseen dialogue of evolution, carried on not in words, but in the rise and fall of species. The shallows hum with this exchange. Fields of sponge-like creatures filter the water, pulling in nourishment and exhaling clarity. Mats of algae anchor themselves to rocks, swaying in the current like fields of grass in a silent wind. Small, worm-like burrowers carve invisible roads beneath the sand, turning and twisting in their search for food. Each movement leaves a mark, not one we can see here and now, but one that will be preserved in the stone for 500 million years. It is in these waters that the Cambrian world truly begins to awaken. The pace of change accelerates. What once took tens of millions of years now happens in less than 5. New body plans, the blueprints for entire animal groups, appear as though conjured. Trilobites, with their segmented shells and compound eyes, scuttle across the seafloor, the first great navigators of this new landscape. Predators grow bolder, faster, stranger. Some take on shapes like blades, slicing through the water with streamlined precision. Others sprout spines, jagged edges, that promise injury to anything that dares attack. And all the while, the prey responds in kind, curling into defensive shapes, blending with the seafloor, learning the art of vanishing. The silence remains, but it is a different silence now. Beneath it lies the steady hum of countless heartbeats, the whisper of cilia and fins, the unseen vibration of life in motion. It is the silence of a forest before dawn, when every creature waits for the moment to move. If you could rise from the water now and look back upon the ocean, you would see nothing unusual, just the gentle rise and fall of waves. But you would know that below, a new world has opened. It is a world that will one day give rise to every fish, every insect, every bird, every human. All of it begins here, in this awakening. The continents, still adrift, play their quiet part. Their movements shape the coastlines, creating bays, lagoons, and shallow seas, perfect incubators for the experiments of evolution. Volcanic islands rise and erode, scattering minerals into the water, feeding the plankton blooms that feed the rest. The earth itself is collaborating in the making of this new order. And so the silent world awakens, not with a shout, but with a sigh. It is a slow rising, a patient unfolding. Life stretches its limbs, opens its new eyes, and begins to explore. The great experiment has truly begun. Ahead lies a time of shadows and memory, a glance backward into the long, dim corridors of the Precambrian to understand what gave birth to this surge. But here, in this moment, the oceans are alive with potential, and the silence hums with promise. The oceans are stirring with new life, yet their roots stretch deep into a time far older than the Cambrian dawn. To understand the bloom now unfolding, we must drift backward, beyond the sudden rise of shells and eyes, into the long shadow of the Precambrian past. It is a journey into obscurity, for this is an age without the clear fossil record of the world to come. The creatures here are soft, yielding to the touch, and so they leave little behind but whispers in the stone. For more than 4 billion years, Earth was a canvas still being prepared, its surface molded by fire and water, its skies shifting from hostile to habitable. Imagine the planet as it once was, a molten sphere cooling under a young, faint sun. In those earliest days, the seas were thick with minerals, and the air held no breath for lungs. Yet in those waters, something extraordinary began, the first stirrings of life, too small for the eye, too humble to imagine the future they would create. Single-celled organisms ruled this silent kingdom for eons. They were the patient architects of the world we now know, weaving oxygen into the sky, altering the chemistry of the oceans, and setting the stage for all that followed. Their work was invisible but relentless. With each passing age, they transformed the very nature of the planet, turning poison into possibility. In the deep time of the Proterozoic eon, the first experiments with complexity began. Cells learned to live together, to share resources, to specialize. The earliest multicellular forms were like threads and filaments, drifting in the shallows or clinging to rocks. They were not yet animals, not yet plants, but they were a bridge, a step toward the diversity yet to come. The Precambrian world was not without drama. Entire ice ages gripped the planet in white silence, glaciers reaching from pole to pole in events known as Snowball Earth. Oceans froze, and life retreated to hidden pockets where warmth still lingered, perhaps near volcanic vents in the deep, perhaps beneath the thin skin of ice where light could still reach. From these refuges, life endured, waiting for the thaw. When the ice finally relented, the seas were once again alive with opportunity. In these warmer waters appeared the first large, soft-bodied creatures, the Ediacaran biota. Picture them resting on the seafloor like alien gardens, quilted fronds waving gently in the current. Oval discs pressed flat against the sand, strange leaf-like bodies branching into symmetrical patterns. They had no eyes, no mouths, no bones. They absorbed nutrients through their skin, existing in a quiet balance with their surroundings. Some of these forms reached remarkable sizes, as long as a human, yet they moved little, if at all. Their world was a slow, drifting one. No predators to flee from, no prey to chase. But such peace could not last. Hidden in the very genes of these creatures were the tools for change, for building bodies with muscles, with nerves, with senses sharp enough to detect the faintest shift in the water. The shadows of the Precambrian past hold another secret. The early evolution of the genetic toolkit that would power the Cambrian Explosion. These were the instructions that could be rearranged to produce endless new designs, limbs, shells, antennae, long before they were used to create the bustling ecosystems of the Cambrian. They lay dormant, like seeds beneath the winter snow. And so, the Precambrian was a paradox. On the surface, it seemed uneventful. Slow drifts of soft-bodied forms across the seafloor, eons of microscopic rain. But beneath that calm, the blueprint for complexity was forming. The stage was not just being set, it was being wired for transformation. When you picture these ancient oceans, imagine a world bathed in soft, greenish light, the water thick with plankton blooms. On the seafloor, colonies of cyanobacteria form layered mats, rippling as fishless currents pass overhead. Strange, jelly-like forms pulse slowly in the water, their movements more like drifting clouds than active swimming. It is a dreamlike realm, serene, almost unreal, but change is already stirring in the depths. The first hints of mobility appear, worm-like burrows etched into the mud, faint trails left behind by something that had purpose in its movement. These are the ghostly signatures of the earliest animals capable of deliberate motion. They tell us that the passive drifting of the Ediacaran seas was beginning to give way to something new, a world where movement could mean survival. As the clock of deep time turns toward the Cambrian, the pace quickens. Genetic possibilities, long held in reserve, begin to unfold. The quiet gardens of the Ediacaran will fade, replaced by the competitive dance of predator and prey. The soft-bodied world will be armored, sharpened, and set into motion. And yet, without these shadows, without the long preparation of the Precambrian past, the Cambrian bloom could never have happened. It was here, in the deep stillness, that life learned patience, endurance, and the art of adaptation. We leave this age now, drifting forward toward the great unveiling. Ahead, the oceans will burst with unfamiliar shapes, colors, and movements. The ancient stillness will give way to a rush of innovation unlike anything before or since. The long shadow is behind us. The light of the Cambrian morning is beginning to rise. The shadows of the Precambrian fade, and before us the ocean opens into a world transformed. It is as though the planet has taken a deep, patient breath, and now exhales life in a sudden, dazzling rush. This is no gentle drift of change. It is a bloom, swift by the clock of deep time, unstoppable, once begun. In a geological heartbeat, the oceans teem with forms never before seen. Armored, spined, jointed, finned, it is the Cambrian Explosion, and it is rewriting the language of life. You might imagine the seafloor as a marketplace at dawn, silent a moment ago, but now stirring with motion. Trilobites scuttle across the sand, their jointed legs working in perfect rhythm, their faceted eyes catching every flicker of movement. Above them, tiny arthropods paddle in bursts, weaving between drifting fronds of early seaweed-like algae. Colors shimmer where none existed before. The shells of some creatures glint with iridescent minerals, catching the sunlight that filters down in golden beams. Segmented worms ripple across the sediment, their bristles flickering like fine glass threads. Small, shrimp-like predators dart in to snatch prey, retreating as quickly as they came. For the first time in Earth's history, predator and prey meet in a balanced arms race. The invention of the eye changes everything. No longer is survival a matter of chance encounter. It is pursuit and escape, strategy and reaction. Prey evolve armor, camouflage, and speed. Predators sharpen their tools, develop grasping limbs, and refine their senses. The great bloom is not just a riot of shape and color. It is the emergence of complexity in every sense. The earliest chordates, distant ancestors of all vertebrates, glide through the water with flexible, muscular bodies, propelled by tails that cut the water like silk. Soft-bodied creatures give rise to harder, more enduring designs, ensuring their descendants will leave their marks in stone. The seafloor becomes layered with life. Sponges rise like small towers, filtering water through intricate channels. Brachiopods anchor themselves with tough stalks, opening their shells like slow, deliberate mouths. Tube-dwelling worms build delicate chimneys of sand and mucus, extending feathery tentacles to capture drifting food. Above this, the midwater is alive with movement. Primitive arthropods and early mollusks swim in the filtered light, casting shifting shadows across the sand. Some carry spines to deter predators. Others adopt transparency, vanishing into the water itself. Every adaptation spurs another, the invisible conversation of evolution unfolding in 1,000 voices at once. And there are giants here, too. Anomalocaris, the strange shrimp, glides like a phantom hunter, its body long and undulating, its front limbs lined with spines to seize prey. Its eyes, large and compound, are among the most sophisticated of the age, twin lanterns that search the seafloor for the slow and unwary. To a trilobite, it is a nightmare made flesh. In the sediment, Small scavengers roam, feeding on the remains of the hunt. Their role is no less vital, for in the Cambrian bloom, every niche finds its occupant. From the highest swimmer to the deepest burrower, life is partitioned, specialized, endlessly experimenting. Imagine drifting among them, weightless in the gentle current. The water hums with life's energy, a sound not heard but felt, the vibration of countless movements, the faint push of bodies swimming past. Sunlight scatters across shells, over polished segments, through translucent fins. The world is not only alive, it is aware of itself in a way it has never been before. Beneath the beauty lies a constant tension. Survival is measured in moments, in the time it takes for a predator to strike, for a prey animal to vanish into the sand. The Cambrian bloom is not peaceful, but it is balanced. For each hunter, there is a countermeasure. For each adaptation, an answer. This interplay fuels the very engine of diversity. In shallow waters, near the continental shelves, reefs begin to form. Not yet the coral gardens of later ages, but early structures built by sponges, algae, and other colonial organisms. These reefs provide shelter, hunting grounds, and the first hints of the complex ecosystems to come. The bloom touches every layer of the ocean. In the dark depths, creatures adapt to low light, developing sensitive feelers and chemical senses to navigate. Some evolve slow, deliberate movements to conserve energy. Others drift like ghosts, feeding on whatever falls from the lively world above. Even the chemistry of the planet feels the bloom's effects. The burial of organic matter in sediments alters the balance of carbon in the atmosphere, shaping climate and oxygen levels. The Earth is not merely the stage for this drama. It is a participant, its systems intertwined with the fortunes of the living things it cradles. As we move through this crowded sea, it becomes clear that the Cambrian explosion is not a single event, but a sustained surge, each wave of innovation building upon the last. The genetic toolkit forged in the long quiet of the Precambrian is now wielded with abandon, producing creatures as strange as they are fleeting. Many will vanish in the very age that birthed them, replaced by new experiments better suited to the shifting world. And yet, for this moment, the bloom feels eternal. The oceans are rich, varied, and alive in a way the planet has never known before. The once empty seafloor is now a living quilt patterned in shells, fronds, and moving shadows. The water above it is a shifting tapestry of light and life, each thread woven into the next. We drift onward, past a trilobite, pausing in its march across the sand, past a cluster of sponges swaying gently in the current, past the dark shape of a hunter sliding silently out of view. The Cambrian bloom surrounds us, a reminder that life, once given the tools to create, will never cease to imagine new forms. Ahead, we will explore the oceans more closely to meet the strangest and most wondrous of these new arrivals. In waters where every ripple hides a form unknown to the world before this time, the bloom has unfurled, and now we drift deeper into its living tapestry. These waters, once barren, now hold wonders so strange they defy the imagination of any age to come. It is here, among drifting shadows and shafts of sunlit haze, that the Cambrian's true marvels revealed themselves. The ocean floor is an alien garden, not the green of later coral reefs, but a palette of pale blues, muted reds, and mineral grays, lit by the soft shimmer of suspended plankton. Creatures move here in ways unfamiliar to our modern eyes, gliding, rippling, tumbling end over end. Some seem more like drifting machines than animals, their bodies shaped by eons of unseen forces. A shadow passes above, Anomalocaris, once again the silent hunter, its segmented body undulating like a ribbon of muscle. Its front limbs, lined with hooks, sweep forward to grasp prey. Its mouth, a circle of plates, turns with a slow, grinding rhythm. Yet it is not the only ruler here. Other predators stalk these waters, lean, eel-like, swimmers with quick bursts of speed, or broad, flat-bodied ambushers that lie buried until the moment to strike arrives. Between them, the trilobites march on. Their numbers fill every depth, from the shallows to the dim, cold reaches far below. Their armored plates glint dully, their tiny legs working tirelessly, their antennae swaying like delicate reeds in the current. Some dig through the sediment for morsels, others graze on films of algae clinging to rocks. Each one is a fortress in miniature, honed by countless generations. And then there are the true oddities, creatures whose designs seem as if nature were experimenting with the very idea of form. Hallucigenia walks on spindly legs, its back bristling with sharp spines, as if daring anything to approach. Its head, difficult to distinguish from its tail, probes gently at the sand, seeking the smallest scraps to feed upon. Near the seafloor, Nectocorus glides, a ribbon-bodied swimmer with a soft fin-like mantle and two grasping tentacles. Neither fish nor squid, but something between, something before. It moves with an almost dreamlike grace, each undulation carrying it silently forward. In the soft light, Wiwaxia drifts into view, a slow-moving grazer, armored in rows of plates, each one catching a faint glint as it turns. Long, curved spines jut from its sides, making it a bristling puzzle for any would-be predator. It grazes patiently, unhurried by the world around it. Somewhere above, Morella paddles, its feathery appendages flicking like fans. Its body is small and ornate, patterned in fine, delicate lines. It catches the light like a living ornament, a flash of movement, here and gone again. The variety is staggering. Creatures with stalked eyes and fan-shaped limbs, worms with jaws lined in teeth, shellless mollusks rippling like fabric in the current. Some are tiny enough to pass unseen, living in the spaces between grains of sand. Others loom large for their time, casting shadows over the swaying fronds of early seaweed. Imagine floating among them, letting the currents carry you from one realm to the next. In the shallows, sunlight pools in rippled patterns across the sand, each flicker revealing some new inhabitant. Deeper down, the light dims to a blue haze, where eyes grow larger and limbs grow longer, adapted to seek out the faintest sign of life. The water is not silent, not in the way we think of silence. Here, sound travels far, the faint rasp of shells scraping against stone, the whisper of swimming limbs, the muted thud of a predator's strike. It is a living hum, carried in every molecule around you. You might feel the brush of something unseen, a soft-bodied swimmer, quick and darting, vanishing before you turn. Or you might watch as a shadow resolves into a shape both alien and beautiful. Each movement a careful balance between grace and survival. The Cambrian Ocean is not just a place of strange shapes. It is a crucible. Here, the blueprint of future life is being written in countless variations. The designs that succeed will echo forward through deep time. The failures will vanish without a trace, leaving only faint impressions in stone for some distant age to find. Somewhere, a trilobite molts, leaving behind a perfect cast of its armored shell. A predator drifts past, uninterested in the empty husk. Life here is constant change, shedding, growing, replacing, adapting. Nothing remains as it was for long. Above, in the shifting water column, tiny plankton bloom in staggering numbers, their drifting bodies fueling the entire web of life below. Filter feeders rise to capture them, primitive brachiopods, early echinoderms, the frond-like arms of sea lilies, swaying in unison with the current. The oceans of strange new life are rich but fragile. Every species is part of a delicate balance, one small shift away from disappearing entirely. And yet, for now, the balance holds. Life surges forward, each creature a thread in a pattern too vast to see in full. We drift farther, past a cluster of Wewaxia grazing side by side, past a lurking predator whose shape melts into the shadows, past an open expanse of sand where a lone trilobite pauses in its march. The ocean stretches endlessly, each ripple of water hiding a shape no living thing has ever seen before, and perhaps will never see again. Beyond this realm lies a new stage in the Cambrian story, one of armor, weapons, and eyes sharper than the light they catch. A world where the dance between predator and prey will grow faster, stranger, and more elaborate still. From the drifting gardens of the Cambrian seas, we glide now into a realm of defense and design, where survival is an endless conversation between hunter and hunted. The ocean, though vast and filled with abundance, is no gentle sanctuary. Here, every movement, every shape is a declaration. I am ready. You begin to notice the hard edges first. Gleaming plates, segmented shells, the curved shadows of spines fanning outward. Trilobites, once soft-bodied in their ancient ancestors, now march in ranks of armor, each one a living fortress. Their eyes, set high and proud, catch the dim light, made of calcite, the very stone of the sea. They shine like small jewels. With these crystal lenses, they watch the world with unblinking patience, seeing far more clearly than their prey suspects. Imagine drifting closer to one it senses your approach, the soft tremor of the water. Without haste, it adjusts course, its many legs lifting in a coordinated ripple. The spines on its sides make it difficult for a predator to swallow whole. This too is an answer, the art of being just difficult enough to eat that the hunter chooses another meal. Yet some defenses are more flamboyant. Hallucigenia, its spindly legs moving in a delicate ballet, raises its long dorsal spines like a crown of thorns. One touch from those sharp spears would be enough to send even the most determined predator away. Others choose stealth over strength. Soft-bodied worms bury themselves beneath the sand, their eyes peeking from tiny openings. From here, they scan for danger, their senses tuned to the faintest shift in pressure. Armor is not only for the body. Some creatures have turned their eyes into weapons of their own. The trilobites' lenses, evolved in countless tiny facets, can detect the glimmer of a predator's movement even in dim light. They are not just for sight, they are for anticipation, the ability to act before danger arrives. And then there are the true sentinels of the Cambrian seas, creatures whose heads bristle with feelers, antennae and stalks. These appendages sweep the water like living radar, tasting for chemical traces, feeling for the faint vibration of a swimmer far away. In this age, the escalation is relentless. A predator evolves sharper claws. Its prey grows thicker plating. A hunter learns to strike faster. The hunted develops better vision to see the strike coming. The sea is not a battlefield of noise and violence, but a slow, patient game of adaptation. A quiet arms race where every advantage is carved through generations. Some creatures have become masterpieces of hybrid defense, the armor of a fortress, the speed of an escape artist, and the vision to know when to use each. In the dim reaches of the sea floor, you might see a trilobite flattened against the sand, its shell blending with the sediment. It becomes a stone until the danger passes, then lifts itself and moves on as though nothing had happened. Others wear spines not for battle, but for warning, exaggerated silhouettes that make them appear larger, more difficult to swallow. Predators know such shapes well. They learn to seek smaller, softer prey, and so the spined ones endure, generation after generation. Eyes, too, tell a story here. In the Precambrian site was a luxury, dim shapes, light and dark, perhaps little more. But now, in the Cambrian, vision blooms into clarity. To see is to live. The first great eyes open the world in a way no sense has before. Suddenly, there is shape, there is distance, there is movement tracked across the water. A predator no longer strikes at random, it aims. A prey animal no longer flees blindly. It runs with purpose, toward shadow, toward shelter. It is no wonder that the creatures of this time evolve such intricate and varied lenses. Some are fixed, staring endlessly into the blue. Others swivel atop stalks, granting a panoramic view of the world. Many are compound, breaking light into a mosaic of images, not a single picture, but thousands of tiny snapshots stitched together in the mind. The ocean is now a gallery of these watchful eyes. Some gleam like black glass, others catch the light in shimmering green or amber. All are alert. All are learning the art of seeing and being seen. Even in this calm drift, you can feel the quiet tension. For every shimmering shell and polished spine, there is a story of an attack survived, of a predator turned away, of a lineage that endured because of one small advantage. But there is more to come. The arms race of the Cambrian will soon give rise to hunters unlike any before, swift, precise, and perfectly built for the chase. They will not simply wait for prey to come within reach. They will seek it, follow it, corner it. The age of the first great predators is drawing near. From the shadowed depths they emerge, not the patient grazers of the seafloor, not the cautious scavengers of drifted remains, but the seekers, creatures whose bodies are built for the pursuit. The Cambrian world has grown sharper, faster, more watchful, and now it is time for the hunters to take their place. You might picture the first of them gliding above the sand like a ghost, eyes scanning for movement, limbs poised to strike. They are not the largest beings the ocean has ever seen, but in this new age, size is not the only measure of power. Speed, precision, and strategy are their weapons. Foremost among them is Anomalocaris, the abnormal shrimp, though in truth it is nothing so humble. Its body is long and graceful, built to swim with the ease of a drifting ribbon, but do not be deceived by its elegance. At the front, two great grasping arms sweep forward, spined and jointed, ready to snatch the unwary. Its mouth, a circular ring of hardened plates, rotates with a slow, deliberate grinding, built to crush even the armor of trilobites. Imagine watching it from a distance, the way it scans the water in slow, deliberate sweeps. When it moves, it is not with frantic bursts, but with the confidence of a predator that knows its prey will falter before it does. Other predators take a different approach. Some are ambushers, lying in wait among the fronds and rocks until the perfect moment arrives. A flick of the body, a sudden rush, and the prey is gone, pulled into the shadows. This is a new kind of world, one where being alert is no longer enough. In earlier ages, a creature could survive by hiding well or by moving quickly away from danger. But these hunters have eyes tuned to the smallest twitch, senses sharp enough to detect the faint disturbance of water from several body lengths away. They are relentless, following the signal until they close the distance. The prey, in turn, grows faster, more elusive. Some develop more agile swimming, twisting through the water in sudden changes of direction. Others harden their armor further, turning their bodies into puzzles that even the strongest predator finds hard to solve. But still, the hunters adapt. In the Cambrian seas, you might imagine a chase A trilobite gliding low over the sand, a sudden shadow falling over it, the flick of its legs as it tries to vanish into the seabed. The predator curves in, matching its every move. For a moment, it is a dance of survival, each partner reading the other's steps. Then, a final surge, and the dance is over. Yet there is more to these predators than raw hunger. They shape the entire ecosystem, forcing every other creature to evolve. With each new adaptation in the hunter's arsenal, the prey must answer with its own. The sea becomes a testing ground, each life form a work in progress, each generation a refinement of design. Not all predators rely on size or speed. Some are masters of deception, resembling harmless drifting debris until they are close enough to strike. Others use sheer endurance, outlasting their prey until exhaustion slows it. Even the hunters themselves are hunted. Larger Anomalocera may prey on smaller ones, and ambush predators may find themselves surprised by other ambushers. In the Cambrian, no creature is beyond risk. This constant cycle of attack and defense drives the great bloom of life into ever more complex forms. It is no longer enough to survive by chance. Survival now depends on strategy, skill, and sometimes the smallest stroke of luck. As the sun filters down through the ancient seas, casting shifting beams across the sand, you can feel the energy of this new age. Every flick of a fin, every ripple in the water could be the beginning of a story, of a hunt, of an escape, of a lineage altered forever by the outcome of a single encounter. The first great predators have claimed their place, and with them, the Cambrian seas are alive with motion and intent. But as they swim and hunt, the stage itself is changing. The continents above are not fixed, but drifting slowly across the globe, reshaping the shallow seas and the habitats within them. And so, our journey will follow from the depths of predation to the restless movement of the earth itself. Above the rolling swells of Cambrian seas, the land seems silent, lifeless, fixed. But you know now, as we watch through the patient eyes of deep time, that nothing on earth ever truly stands still. The continents themselves are restless. They drift, they turn, they collide, and part again, carried on the slow currents of the molten world beneath. It is not motion you could ever witness in a human lifetime. Even if you stood on these barren shores for centuries, the horizon would remain unchanged. The mountains would seem still, the bays and inlets eternal. Yet, in truth, the ground beneath your feet is gliding, not in haste, but in a patient, inexorable journey. Beneath the crust, the mantle churns in convection, like the slow swirl of honey warmed over countless eons. Heat rises from the deep interior, moving vast slabs of stone above it. These are the plates, massive rafts of crust, and in the Cambrian world, they are scattered in unfamiliar arrangements. Laurentia sits near the equator, its edges washed by warm, shallow seas. Gondwana, vast and sprawling, stretches toward the southern pole, carrying deserts of naked rock beneath cold skies. Baltica and Siberia drift alone, their coastlines isolated from one another by thousands of kilometers of open water. These are not the continents, you know. They are the seeds of continents to come, wearing shapes that time will smooth and reshape 100 times over. Imagine yourself above this Cambrian earth, drifting as if in slow orbit. The seas are a deep, glittering turquoise, laced with lighter bands, where coral-like reefs have begun to take hold. The land is bare, rust-colored in some places, pale and dusty in others, scarred with mountains, yet untouched by forests. From above, you see the edges of each continent curling into peninsulas and splintering into chains of islands. The air is thin, and the wind moves unhindered across these barren surfaces, sculpting their edges grain by grain, dot down at sea level. The meeting place of land and ocean is alive in another way. The shifting of continents shapes coastlines, and coastlines shape life. Here in the shallows, sunlight pierces through water that is no more than a few meters deep. It warms the sandy seafloor, feeding blooms of cyanobacteria and algae. These, in turn, draw in grazers, which draw in hunters. In every inlet, every newly formed lagoon, evolution writes another variation on its endless theme. The continents are more than scenery. They are catalysts, their drift creating and destroying habitats. When two plates pull apart, the rift between them fills with water, a new ocean where fresh currents mix nutrients in unfamiliar ways. When they collide, mountains rise, blocking winds, changing rainfall, and shifting the chemistry of nearby seas. Over millions of years, these changes ripple outward. A warm current, redirected by a new coastline, carries plankton-rich water to a distant shore. There, a reef begins to grow, attracting trilobites and spiny predators that had never before crossed that part of the ocean. And as the predators arrive, so too does the next wave of evolutionary pressure, shaping shells, spines, and eyes in a new arms race. The continents also tell a story of climate. In the Cambrian, the world is warm, the polar ice almost non-existent. But the placement of the continents controls how heat is distributed, how winds and currents carry warmth toward the poles or allow cold waters to sink toward the equator. These slow, invisible patterns will decide where life flourishes and where it struggles. On a human timescale, this movement is imperceptible, but in deep time, it is like watching the earth breathe. Mountain ranges rise from the sea like the crest of a frozen wave. An inland basin deepens into a great ocean, then closes again until its waters are squeezed away and the basin becomes a plateau. There is a rhythm to it, slow, steady, unstoppable. The continents move a few centimeters each year, yet over tens of millions of years, they redraw the map entirely. The shores that once faced a warm ocean may, in another age, face an icy expanse. An island may drift into colder waters and watch its coral reefs bleach and vanish. Elsewhere, a desert may flood with life as warm currents bathe its coasts for the first time in millions of years. If you listen closely to this imagined earth, you might hear the muffled groan of the plates, grinding against one another, the hiss of magma where the crust is thin, the deep, resonant echo of mountains cracking under their own weight. But mostly, you will hear silence, a silence so vast it makes the slow heartbeat of the planet itself audible, and yet life is listening. The trilobites do not know that their ocean floors are shifting, but they feel the change in currents, in the taste of the water, in the arrival of strangers from distant shores. The predators follow, ever hungry, adapting their hunts to the shapes of new coasts. Every movement of the continents sets the stage for new experiments in life. When the land masses drift apart, the creatures on either side evolve in isolation, following their own unique paths. When the plates meet again, those separate experiments collide, producing new competitions, new predators, new prey. Above all, the continents teach us that nothing is fixed, not the land, not the seas, not the forms of life they nurture. Everything is in motion, even when it feels still. From the vantage point of deep time, the Cambrian continents are just beginning their long journey. They will travel together and apart many times. One day, long after the Cambrian seas have faded, they will drift into positions more familiar to you, the outlines that school maps have etched into your memory. But by then, the world will have changed beyond recognition. For now, we leave them mid-journey. The plates grind on, shaping oceans and coastlines, dictating the patterns of currents and life. The story of life in the Cambrian is inseparable from the story of the earth beneath it, a slow dance of stone and water, each step changing the course of evolution. And as the continents shift beneath us, the oceans carry forward something even more enduring, whispers that travel through the ages, echoes of these ancient waters that will still be heard millions of years from now. The oceans are restless, yet they remember. Every current, every swirl of nutrient-rich water carries within it traces of an older world. The continents drift overhead in their patient ballet, but the sea holds memories in its depths. The Cambrian life is still an infant in the vast timeline of the planet, and yet the foundations laid here will echo forward into ages unimaginably distant. The creatures drifting in the warm, shallow waters, delicate, translucent, or sheathed in armor, are ancestors in waiting, not of any one creature you would recognize, but of entire lineages that will one day walk the land, soar in the sky, or dive in oceans far colder and deeper than these. The trilobite crawling across the sandy seafloor does not know it is part of something eternal. But each movement, each feeding, each competition for survival leaves an imprint, not just in the sediment it stirs, but in the code of life itself. Genes shift and twist in the quiet alchemy of reproduction, testing tiny variations with every new generation. Most will vanish, as unnoticed as a ripple on the surface of a tide pool. But a few will linger, passed on, refined, carried forward like seeds on the wind of time. And so, in the dark spaces between moments, evolution writes its story in a language that only deep time can read. The pressures of this Cambrian world, the predators, the competition, the changing currents will become the tutors of life, instructing it on how to grow stronger, swifter. Stranger. Imagine standing on the Cambrian shore. Behind you, the land is silent, bare. Before you, the ocean glitters, hiding its teeming mysteries beneath a veil of light. You breathe in air that is thinner, different, touched by the faint tenths of minerals from rock, still fresh to the wind. The horizon is the same curve it will be for every age to come. But what lives beneath it is entirely unlike anything you know. If you could remain here, not for a day or a year, but for millions of years, you would watch the tapestry change. The trilobites would diversify, branching into hundreds of forms, some flat and shield-like, others narrow and quick. Spiny predators would grow larger, their eyes more complex. Filter feeders would build forests of fronds across the seafloor. The delicate dance of hunter and hunted would play out in endless new variations, and then, just as slowly, entire lineages would vanish. Perhaps a shift in the continents would cool a once warm sea. Perhaps a competitor would grow too efficient, tipping the balance. The ocean does not keep its guests forever, but nothing is truly lost. The shells left behind will sink into the sediment, pressed under the weight of time until they turn to stone. The shapes of those shells will lie buried for 500 million years, waiting for the day a future species, curious, upright, with hands built for grasping, will find them and wonder. Some of the echoes are not shapes, but strategies. The first predators of the Cambrian perfect the art of vision, eyes that can detect movement, that can distinguish shadow from light. This gift will echo forward into the eyes of fish, reptiles, mammals, and eventually your own. The armored exoskeleton, first grown to keep danger at bay, will become a recurring theme, reinvented countless times by crabs, beetles, and armadillos. Even the idea of a central nervous system, of a body wired for swift reaction, begins here and never leaves the stage. You might think of these as inventions, but in the long view of time, they are more like melodies, themes introduced in the Cambrian, played again in different keys through every era that follows. The notes change, the instruments evolve, but the song remains recognizable. Some echoes are softer, more elusive, the way certain creatures burrow into sediment to hide from danger, a habit that will resurface in countless unrelated species. The way life responds to new environments by experimenting with shape, color, movement. The Cambrian does not just fill the oceans with life. It teaches life how to adapt, how to persist. And through all of this, the continents keep moving. Their shifting shapes open new seaways, close others, change the courses of currents. Each change sends new ripples through the living world. Sometimes those ripples become waves, sweeping away the old and making space for the new. In the fossil record of the future, these moments will look like sudden bursts of creativity or like catastrophes, depending on which side of survival a species falls. From our quiet watch here in deep time, we know the truth. Both are the same thing. Creation and loss, endlessly trading places. The echoes of the Cambrian are not just biological, they are also written in stone. Layers of sediment, built grain by grain from the remains of ancient reefs, will one day become cliffs. These cliffs will tower over rivers in far-off ages, their walls striped with the colors of vanished seas. In those bands of rock, a careful eye will find the signature of this time, the peculiar shapes of trilobite shells, the faint patterns of soft-bodied creatures pressed flat, their details still visible after 500 million years. Imagine a future, human, or perhaps something else entirely, walking along such a cliff. They run their fingers over the stone, tracing the curve of a creature that has not lived in any ocean for hundreds of millions of years. In that moment, the echo becomes a voice. The Cambrian world speaks again. Even now, as we drift in its presence, we are part of that long conversation. To witness it is to understand that every moment in the history of life is built on the bones of moments before. The fish of the Devonian, the dinosaurs of the Mesozoic, the mammals of the Cenozoic, all of them are shaped by the possibilities first, tested in this ancient sea, It is humbling to realize how much of yourself is made from echoes, your eyes, your reflexes, even the architecture of your cells. All trace their lineage back to a time when no creature had ever walked on land. And yet, there is a kind of comfort in that continuity. It means that nothing in nature truly stands alone. Every form, no matter how strange, belongs to a greater chorus. Every adaptation is a verse in a song begun in the Cambrian and still being sung today. The seas of this age do not know what they will become. They only exist in the moment, glittering beneath the pale sun, their life unfolding in patterns as old as the planet itself. But we, watching from the vantage of time, can see the ripples stretching forward, reaching not just into the next age, but into all the ages after that. We listen to the silent hymn of evolution, to the patient turning of the countenance, to the soft, persistent work of life, building itself anew, again and again. The echoes are everywhere, in the shells that harden against the tide, in the eyes that seek the next shadow, in the currents that carry both life and memory from shore to shore. These are the voices of deep time. They do not fade, they only change. Soon this ocean will quiet again. Some of its bright experiments will end. Others will carry forward into worlds the Cambrian could never imagine. But the song will continue, carried in the genes, the rocks, the very shape of the planet itself. And as we follow its thread into the far future, we come to understand something simple and infinite. The story of life is never truly finished. The oceans grow quiet, not all at once, but in the slow, unhurried way that deep time prefers. The currents still move, the tides still rise and fall, but something in the great Cambrian bloom begins to wane. The vast pageant of life that once seemed unstoppable now enters a different rhythm, one of endings, of transformation, of quiet farewells whispered through salt water in the stillness. The trilobites continue their slow march across the seafloor, but their numbers begin to thin. Creatures that once thrived in every corner of the shallow seas find themselves struggling to survive in waters that are subtly yet persistently changing. Temperatures shift, oxygen levels fluctuate. Nutrients no longer flow in quite the same way. The world is adjusting, not out of malice, but because it must. Continents drift, seas close, currents turn. The Cambrian world has always been a place of invention and adaptation. But now, the innovations of the past are not enough for all to endure. Some creatures simply vanish, their lineage ending without ceremony. Others linger for a while longer, but the patterns of life are shifting toward a new chapter. And yet, even in this time of decline, there is beauty. Picture the shallows at sunrise. Light pours into the water like molten gold, scattering into dancing beams that illuminate every grain of sand. Tiny plankton drift with the currents, glowing faintly as they catch the light. Worm-like creatures weave in and out of burrows, while small, armored swimmers glide just above the seabed. Their eyes, intricate mosaics of crystal facets, catch the shimmer of the sun and reflect it back in shades of emerald and sapphire. For a moment, you might forget that this age is coming to a close. For a moment, it feels eternal. The truth is that no ocean remains forever as it is. Sea levels rise and fall. Climate shifts in long, patient cycles. Entire shorelines move thousands of kilometers over spans of time no single creature could ever comprehend. The Cambrian seas are no exception. They too must one day sleep. The long sleep is not an instant silence, but a gradual retreat. Life does not vanish entirely. It changes shape. It hides in new niches. It waits. The world that follows the Cambrian will have its own wonders, its own bursts of creation. But the signature style of life here, the wild, experimental forms, the sudden blossoming of complexity, will not return in quite the same way. Still, the traces remain. Some trilobites will survive for hundreds of millions of years after this, enduring through multiple mass extinctions. Their armored bodies, a familiar silhouette in seas far removed from the Cambrian's warmth. Other creatures will evolve into entirely new shapes, carrying with them the genetic whispers of this ancient dawn. And in the rock record, the outlines of long-vanished shells and soft-bodied marvels will sleep in the darkness, waiting to be found. Imagine those fossils resting in silence. They lie beneath layers of sediment, untouched by light, cradled in stone that once was mud. Storms rage above, mountains rise and fall, ice sheets advance and retreat, but still they wait. Time becomes meaningless here. The ocean that birthed them has long since shifted or disappeared entirely, but the memory remains, locked away in the minerals that replaced their living tissue. One day, far in the future, hands will touch these stones. Minds will puzzle over them, seeking to understand what these creatures were and how they lived. In that moment, the Cambrian seas will awaken again, not in water, but in memory. And so, the long sleep is not an ending. It is a preservation, a holding of breath across eons from our quiet vantage here. Watching the close of the Cambrian, we can see the arc of the story more clearly than the creatures living it ever could. They move through their lives as all living things do, seeking food, avoiding danger, reproducing, unaware that their existence is laying the foundation for worlds they will never see. They are the architects of futures beyond their imagining, the continents to continue their patient drift. Land masses that once lay scattered across the equator will slowly draw together, colliding to form vast supercontinents, then breaking apart again. Each collision reshapes the seas, creating new coastlines and shallow bays while closing others forever. The life that survives the Cambrian will ride these changes like a ship on a restless ocean, sometimes thriving, sometimes fading, always adapting. If you could float above the earth and watch these changes in fast motion, you would see a planet constantly in motion, mountains rising like slow waves, glaciers advancing and retreating, oceans spilling over new lands and receding from old ones. The Cambrian would pass in the blink of an eye, and yet its influence would ripple outward through every frame of the story that follows. The strange thing about forgotten seas is that they never truly vanish. Their waters may drain, their creatures may disappear, but their mark on the earth is indelible. It is carved into the chemistry of the rocks, etched into the DNA of the living, written into the very patterns of ecosystems yet to come. Even now, you carry the Cambrian within you, not in your conscious memory, but in the quiet architecture of your cells, in the way your body organizes itself, in the reflex to flinch at sudden movement, a distant echo of eyes learning to watch for predators in ancient water. Perhaps that is the great gift of the long sleep. It allows what is essential to endure, while letting go of what the present no longer needs. In this way, the Cambrian is never truly lost. It is simply transformed, waiting beneath the surface of time until it is called upon again. As the final days of this age stretch on, the seas still teem with life, though in forms now subtly changed. The grand experiments that defined the early Cambrian have settled into more familiar patterns. The creatures here are no less remarkable, but they are part of a new order, a more stable arrangement of predators and prey. The chaotic burst of forms has quieted into a slower rhythm, one that will carry life forward into the Ordovician and beyond. And somewhere, in the dim light beneath a reef, a trilobite pauses in its slow walk across the sand. It does not know it is living in the twilight of an era. It does not feel the weight of history in its jointed legs. It only moves forward, searching for food, feeling the texture of the sand beneath it, aware only of the moment. In that sense, perhaps nothing has changed at all. The ocean exhales, the sun sets, the waters darken, the long sleep has begun. It will last for hundreds of millions of years, in one form or another. But the song of the Cambrian, the song of life, daring to grow complex, to see, to hunt, to protect, will continue in quieter verses. And one day, when the world is ready, those verses will swell again into choruses of creation in new and wondrous forms. The forgotten seas will dream in silence, their stories carried in the rocks, the genes, and the minds of those who one day remember. And so, as we drift away from this time, leaving the Cambrian to its rest, we can take comfort in the thought that nothing in nature is truly gone. Every life, every moment, every experiment in survival becomes part of the great, unbroken tapestry. The seas close their eyes, the stars wheel slowly above, and the earth, in all its ancient patience, turns toward what comes next. Good night.